I was sitting at the kitchen table, coffee cooling in my cup when that message came through. It was from my best friend Mia. Simple, direct. I saw Daniel and Rachel at the cafe downtown. They weren't just talking. That's how I learned my husband was betraying me with the woman who helped us find our dream home. The woman I'd trusted. I never imagined I'd find out my husband was cheating on me with our realtor, of all people, in the very house we bought together. It was one of those moments where your brain just freezes, and time slows down enough for you to hear the tiniest sound, like a pin dropping in a silent room. I set my phone down slowly, fighting to keep my face calm as a storm brewed inside me. My name is Evelyn Carter. I'm 38, a marketing director at a tech startup. I'm the kind of woman who prides herself on keeping control, on being strong, smart, and prepared for whatever life throws my way. But in that moment, in the very house we shared, I felt every inch of control slipping through my fingers. The sunlight streamed softly through the blinds, making the familiar kitchen seem almost surreal. I traced my fingers across the smooth countertop, trying to anchor myself. How long had this been going on? How many nights had he come home smelling like her perfume, pretending everything was normal? I could still remember the day we closed on the house. Daniel and I, holding hands tightly, smiling at the future. Rachel had been professional, friendly, maybe a little too warm. Now all I could think about was how that warmth had turned cold. Later that morning, my phone buzzed again, this time Tom, my younger brother. He's blunt but loyal, someone who always tells it like it is. "Evie," I heard. "This is a nightmare. What are you going to do?" His voice was heavy with concern. "I don't know yet," I admitted, keeping my voice steady. "But I'm not going to let this break me." Daniel's pattern had been there for months. Late nights, mysterious texts, excuses I didn't want to question. I brushed off my suspicions because I wanted to believe in us. Now that trust felt like shattered glass beneath my feet. When Daniel finally came home, his usual confident swagger was missing. He greeted me with a tight smile, like he was already bracing for a fight. "We need to talk," I said, setting the phone down, no longer able to hide what I knew. His eyes flickered with something unreadable. "About what?" "About you and Rachel." He laughed, a bitter, short sound that didn't reach his eyes. "That's ridiculous." I met his gaze evenly. "Is it?" "Because I have proof." He stiffened, and I realized this wasn't just about cheating, it was about control. Daniel was used to being the one who decided what I saw, what I knew, but I wasn't that woman anymore. Mia called that evening, her voice shaking with sympathy. "Evie, I'm so sorry, they didn't just sit and talk." He held her hand like you weren't even in the picture. That image burned into my mind, Daniel, so casual and careless with my trust, sharing secrets with the woman I once considered an ally. I walked through the house, touching the walls, the floor, every corner that held memories of laughter, plans, and promises. How could I make this place mine again? How could I fight back when the betrayal was woven into the very foundation? I thought about my career, my independence, the parts of me that Daniel never truly controlled. I realized this wasn't just about hurt feelings or broken vows. It was about reclaiming power in a situation designed to strip me of it. So I asked myself, what do you do when the person you trusted most turns out to be your biggest enemy? When your home feels like a trap instead of a sanctuary? I didn't have the answer yet. But I knew one thing for sure, this was just the beginning of a battle I intended to win. The next few days felt like I was walking through a fog, caught between disbelief and a growing fire inside me. Daniel acted like nothing had changed, like he hadn't just shattered everything I believed in. But I wasn't about to pretend anymore. I met Mia for coffee one afternoon at our favorite little spot downtown, the same cafe where she'd seen Daniel and Rachel. She looked me straight in the eye, voice low but fierce. "Evie, he's been playing you for a fool. It's not just Rachel. He's been lying to you, manipulating everything around you." She pulled out her phone, showing me pictures she'd taken, Daniel and Rachel sitting too close, laughing too freely. "Look at the way he touches her arm. He doesn't care that you'll find out." I swallowed hard, a bitter laugh escaping me. How could he think I'd never notice, that I'd just sit quietly? Mia shook her head. "That's his arrogance, and Rachel. She's worse, she's like a spider weaving her web to trap him." That night I called Tom. I needed his blunt honesty, the kind of clarity Mia couldn't always give me. "Tom, I want you to be straight with me. What do you think Daniel's really up to?" Tom's voice was low but firm. "He's a liar and a coward, cheating with the realtor, that's next-level betrayal. It's not just about sex, Evie. It's about power, he wants to show you who's boss." I bit my lip, anger rising. "I'm not going to let him." You better not, Tom said, because right now he's got all the power, but that can change. You just have to be smart about it. Then there was Rachel, too confident, too smug. I remembered how she always carried that designer handbag like it was a trophy. A small but telling detail. I imagined her slipping it off her arm to reach for Daniel's hand, the same hand that should have belonged to me. One evening, I confronted Daniel directly after dinner. The house was quiet except for the faint hum of the dishwasher. I found him in the living room, scrolling on his phone. "We need to stop pretending, Daniel," I said, voice calm but sharp. He didn't look up. "Pretending what?" "That I don't know what you've been doing." "With Rachel." He snorted, finally meeting my gaze. "You think you have me figured out, you don't know anything." I took a step closer. "I know enough, and I'm done being your fool." Daniel's lips curled into a sneer. "You're overreacting. This is just business. You're making a mountain out of a molehill." I laughed softly, bitterly. "You're wrong, it's never just business when it comes to me." His phone buzzed, a message from Rachel. I saw it flash. "Can't wait to see you again." Daniel's face went cold. "You don't get to control me." But the truth was, I was already starting to take control, quietly, carefully. The next day at work, I met with Lisa, my closest colleague and confidant. Lisa was the only one who really knew the full picture: Daniel, the house, the betrayal. She was sharp and practical, the perfect ally. "Evie, you look like hell, what's going on?" Lisa asked over lunch. I forced a smile. "It's complicated, but I'm not going to let this ruin me." Lisa nodded. "Good, because if you need backup, I'm here. We can figure out a plan." I felt a flicker of hope. I wasn't alone. That evening, Daniel made a careless mistake. He left his laptop open on the kitchen counter while he took a call outside. Curiosity gnawed at me and I couldn't resist. I glanced at the screen, heart pounding as emails from Rachel popped up, flirtatious, secretive, shameless. This wasn't just an affair. It was a deliberate betrayal wrapped in lies. Later, I met with Mia and Tom again, sharing what I found. Their faces hardened with resolve. "Mia, you said he's arrogant. I'm starting to see why. He thinks he owns this house, this life. But I'm going to show him that's not true." Tom cracked a rare smile. "Good, because it's time you remind him who really holds the cards." As the days passed, Daniel's arrogance only grew. He believed I was still the woman who'd blindly trust him, who'd crumble and stay silent. But I was already weaving a plan, a quiet, careful kind of revenge. How do you take down someone who thinks they're untouchable? How do you turn the tables when the game is rigged against you? I didn't have all the answers yet, but I had one promise. I wasn't going to let him win. There's a quiet moment that comes right before you decide to stop being a victim and start fighting back. For me, it was standing in the middle of that kitchen, Daniel's emails glowing on the laptop screen, the betrayal laid bare in words I wasn't meant to see. But more than the shock, it was the clarity that hit me like a lightning bolt. I had evidence, real evidence, not just suspicions or gut feelings, and with that evidence I could take control. The weeks that followed felt like a whirlwind, days packed with secret meetings, whispered conversations, and a carefully crafted plan forming in my mind. I didn't tell Daniel a thing. He still walked around like a king in his castle, blind to the storm gathering just beneath his feet. One night I sat with Mia at her apartment, the air thick with tension but also determination. The city lights flickered beyond the window, a quiet witness to the battle unfolding. "Evie, you're seriously considering selling the house, aren't you?" Mia asked, her voice a mixture of disbelief and admiration. I nodded, stirring my tea slowly. "It's the one thing he thinks he controls, but it's mine too, and if he wants to play dirty, I'm going to flip the game on its head." Mia leaned in, lowering her voice. "That's brilliant but risky. He'll fight you every step." "Let him," I said, feeling the fire grow inside me. "I've got Lisa on my side. She's helping me look into the legal side of things, how to make the sale without his consent, how to protect myself." Lisa wasn't just a coworker. She was a strategist, someone who understood the intricacies of business and law. I remembered one late night at the office when we'd stayed after hours, poring over contracts and emails for a campaign. Her sharp mind was the perfect weapon in this fight. "Evie," Lisa said, joining us that evening, her eyes serious. "I ran some numbers. The house is in your name jointly, but you can petition for a sale if you can prove misconduct or fraud. His affair might just tip the scales." I let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. "So it's possible." Lisa nodded. "More than possible, it's your move, but you have to be meticulous. No mistakes." I remembered Daniel's careless arrogance, leaving that laptop unlocked, the emails, The texts, each mistake was a thread I could pull to unravel the whole web he'd spun, but it wasn't just about the house. It was about reclaiming my life, my dignity. One evening, as I was going through old photos, I found one that stopped me cold. It was taken at the housewarming party, a snapshot of Daniel laughing, Rachel standing too close, her hand brushing his arm. I stared at it, the image frozen in time. That was the moment everything started to fall apart, and yet I had been blind. I texted Tom later that night. "You were right, it's not just about power, it's personal." His reply came quickly. "Then make it personal, hit him where it hurts." That was when I decided I wasn't just going to sell the house. I was going to expose everything, his lies, his betrayal, his arrogance. I wanted Daniel to feel the full weight of his actions. But I had to be smart. Daniel was dangerous when cornered, and I couldn't let him see what I was doing. So I kept my face calm, my tone even whenever he was around. "You're acting strange," he said one evening, narrowing his eyes. I smiled, cool and controlled. "Maybe I'm just tired." He scoffed, unconvinced. "Or maybe you know something you're not telling me." I let the silence linger, a subtle warning, but I didn't give him the satisfaction of confirmation. Meanwhile, I leaned on Mia, Lisa, and Tom more than ever. Mia was my emotional anchor, the one who reminded me why I had to fight, not just for the house but for myself. Lisa was the brain behind the operation, helping me navigate the legal maze and ensuring every move I made was airtight. And Tom, well, he was the muscle and the reality check. His blunt advice kept me grounded when my mind raced too far ahead. One afternoon, Lisa brought over a folder filled with documents, property deeds, emails, phone records. "These will help build the case," she explained. "You're not just selling a house, you're selling a story, and it's one no court can ignore." I looked at the papers, feeling the weight of every word and number. This wasn't just revenge, it was justice. That evening, I found myself sitting in the quiet living room, the house still feeling like a battleground. I thought about how Daniel and Rachel had treated this place, as a trophy, a prize to be won and flaunted. But to me, it was something else. It was the ground where I would stand my ground. I pictured the day I would finally call the realtor's office and put the house up for sale. The day Daniel's smug smile would falter because I'd taken the power back. As the pieces fell into place, I realized the biggest battle wasn't against Daniel or Rachel. It was against the fear and doubt that had tried to paralyze me. I was ready to fight, and I knew I wouldn't lose. But the question lingered in the back of my mind. Would Daniel ever see me coming? Or was he already too far gone in his own arrogance to realize the storm brewing just beneath his feet? The day I made the first move, I felt a quiet thrill. Not the reckless kind that comes from anger, but the steady, focused surge of someone who knows exactly what they're doing. Daniel might have thought I was broken, but I was far from it. I was just getting started. After watching this video, may your heart feel at ease and revenge be fun without exhaustion. Don't forget to like and subscribe so we can keep our spirits bright together. I called the realtor's office first thing in the morning. My voice was calm, professional, no hint of the storm brewing underneath. "Hello, this is Evelyn Carter," I said. "I'd like to list our house for sale. Effective immediately." There was a brief pause on the other end. "Mrs. Carter, are you sure? Your husband usually handles these matters." "Not anymore," I replied, a quiet smile tugging at my lips. "Please prepare the paperwork." Lisa had already prepared a backup plan for any pushback Daniel might try to throw my way. She dug into every detail of the ownership papers, found loopholes and legal edges we could exploit. I was armed with knowledge and evidence, and I wasn't afraid to use either. By midday, word was out. I could almost imagine Daniel's face when his phone lit up with notifications about the listing. I pictured him pacing the living room, stunned that I'd taken the house out from under him. But I wasn't just selling a house, I was sending a message. That afternoon, I met Mia for a quick coffee. I could tell she was buzzing with excitement. "Evie, you did it. I can't believe how calm you were on that call." I chuckled softly. "Years of practice, Mia, you learn to hide the fire behind a smile." Her eyes sparkled. "I swear Daniel doesn't know what's coming." Just then my phone buzzed. A message from Daniel, "You're making a huge mistake." I stared at the screen, then typed back, "Watch me." Later, Daniel confronted me in the kitchen. His usual arrogance was replaced with a sharp edge, like a cornered animal. "You think you can just sell the house without me?" His voice was low, dangerous. I met his glare steadily. "I don't think I'm doing it. You've betrayed everything we built here. Maybe it's time someone else owned it." He laughed, bitter and hollow. "You don't have the power. I smiled, the cold kind that cuts deeper than any scream. I have everything I need. And you're about to learn what that really means. Meanwhile, Rachel was clueless, or so I hoped. But the truth was, she was tangled deeper than she realized. I found out through a mutual acquaintance that she'd been bragging about Daniel, flaunting her conquest like a trophy. I imagined her slipping that designer handbag over her shoulder, smug as ever, unaware that her secrets were unraveling. Lisa and I met late one evening to review the evidence. She pulled up emails, texts, even financial records showing Daniel funneling money through Rachel's accounts. "This is gold," she said, eyes gleaming. "Once this hits the right hands, he's done." I nodded, and it wills. I'm ready to expose everything. But I wasn't done playing with Daniel yet. I wanted to enjoy watching him squirm, so I let small things slip, an overheard conversation here, a carefully timed text there, just enough to unsettle him. One afternoon, I caught him off guard when I returned home early from work. He was on the phone, his voice sharp. "No, I told you, don't contact her again. We need to keep this quiet." I cleared my throat. "Planning another secret meeting." He froze, then smirked. "Just business." I raised an eyebrow. "Business that's about to blow up in your face." He laughed a little too loudly. "You're playing a dangerous game, Evelyn." "Maybe," I said softly. "But it's one I'm going to win." In the weeks that followed, Daniel's frustration grew. I caught him snapping at Rachel during meetings, his usual charm replaced by tense whispers and nervous glances. One evening, Mia came over, her eyes shining with a mixture of amusement and triumph. "You're killing him, Evie." I laughed quietly. Sometimes the best revenge is just making them watch you rise. Tom was less amused but just as committed. "Don't let your guard down, he's desperate now." "I won't," I promised. The final piece was setting the stage for the legal showdown. Lisa connected me with a trusted attorney who specialized in property disputes and marital affairs. During our first meeting, the lawyer looked over the documents with a professional eye. "Mrs. Carter, you've got a strong case. The evidence of infidelity combined with financial misconduct strengthens your position considerably." I felt a surge of satisfaction. "Good, because I'm done being the victim." "Then let's prepare to hit them where it hurts," the lawyer said. And so, the game shifted. What began as quiet revenge turned into a calculated intellectual strike. Every move was planned, every risk measured. Daniel's empire of lies was crumbling, and I was the one holding the wrecking ball. But the best part? Watching his arrogant facade crack. Seeing him realize that the woman he thought was beneath him was actually the one pulling the strings all along. One evening, I received a text from Rachel, dripping with venom. "You'll regret this. Daniel and I will come after you." I smiled as I typed back, calm and unshaken. "I'm already winning." The game wasn't just about the house anymore. It was about reclaiming my life, and nothing, not even Daniel or Rachel, could stop me now. The day the legal papers arrived, I felt a strange mix of relief and anticipation. It was no longer just whispers and threats. It was official, documented, undeniable. Daniel's world was starting to crack wide open, and I was holding the evidence to pull it apart. Lisa and I sat in my living room, piles of documents spread across the coffee table. "This is airtight," she said, shaking her head in disbelief. "Emails, texts, financial records, everything points to him." I nodded, feeling a cold satisfaction settle over me. He thought he was untouchable. That afternoon, the lawyer called with news that made my heart race. "The court has accepted your petition to sell the property despite your husband's objections. And they're ordering a temporary freeze on his access to the finances linked to Rachel." I allowed myself a small smile. The first legal victory, Daniel's smug confidence was starting to dissolve. But the hardest part wasn't the court battle, it was watching Daniel unravel in real time. I caught glimpses of it at work. He'd grow silent during meetings, his usual sharp tongue dulled by stress. Rumors started swirling, colleagues whispering about his legal troubles, the scandal threatening to stain his reputation. One afternoon, I ran into Natalie, Daniel's assistant, in the parking garage. She looked nervous, glancing around before speaking. "Evelyn, I don't know what's happening, but Daniel's really losing it. He's been hiding in his office, barely eating. I think he knows it's over." I nodded politely, my voice steady. "Thank you for telling me, Natalie. I hope he finds peace." Natalie hesitated. "It's just sad, I never thought he'd fall this hard." I swallowed the impulse to respond with anger. Instead, I let the silence speak for me. That evening, Daniel confronted me again, his tone sharper than ever. "You think this legal nonsense is going to ruin me?" I met his glare head-on. "It already has." You underestimated me, and now you're paying the price. His jaw clenched, fury flashing in his eyes. You don't know what you're dealing with. I know exactly what I'm dealing with, I said, voice cold and precise. A man who betrayed his family and made a fool of himself. The next few days brought a wave of legal setbacks for Daniel. His bank accounts tied to Rachel were frozen. His attempts to block the house sale were dismissed by the court. The weight of evidence was crushing him. One afternoon, I received a call from my attorney. Evelyn, Daniel's legal team is trying to negotiate a settlement. They want to avoid further public exposure. I smiled. Let them come to the table. But Daniel wasn't done yet. In a desperate move, he tried to leverage mutual friends, spreading lies and half-truths to salvage his reputation. I heard about it through Mia, who confronted some of the mutual acquaintances. He's trying to spin the story, Mia said, frustration clear in her voice. But people aren't buying it. I knew it was only a matter of time before the truth fully surfaced. At work, my team noticed the change too. Lisa pulled me aside one day. You're handling this with incredible strength, Evie. People are inspired by you. I smiled, though inside I felt the toll. It wasn't easy to balance the fight with keeping my career afloat, but I was determined not to let Daniel's mess derail me. Then came the media. A local news outlet caught wind of the story. Headlines hinted at infidelity, legal battles, and scandal. Daniel's carefully curated image began to crumble publicly. I stayed silent through it all, letting the truth speak louder than any words I could say. One evening, Tom called, voice low. Evie, you've taken him down from every angle. I don't know how you did it, but you've won. I looked around the house, the same house Daniel thought was his kingdom. It no longer felt like a battlefield. It felt like home again. But the final question lingered. Would Daniel ever truly face what he'd done? Or would he keep hiding behind lies and arrogance, unable to accept the consequences? For now, I had the victory, and I wasn't going to let go of it. Daniel's collapse was swift and brutal. The man who once seemed untouchable, smooth, confident, always in control, was reduced to a broken figure, crumbling under the weight of his own deceit. Watching him fall wasn't satisfying in a petty way, it was the inevitable consequence of the choices he made. And I was finally free from his shadow. The first blow came at work. The rumors, once hushed whispers, became loud echoes. His colleagues distanced themselves, clients withdrew their trust, and the partners who once praised him turned their backs. Lisa told me during one of our late-night talks. Daniel's been quietly escorted out. No farewell, no second chances, just a silent exit. I nodded, feeling a bittersweet mix of relief and sadness. It wasn't just about his career. It was a symbol of his unraveling empire. Financial ruin followed quickly. The courts froze his accounts tied to Rachel. The assets he once flaunted, cars, investments, luxury vacations, were seized or liquidated to cover mounting debts and legal fees. I heard from Mia that Rachel had disappeared entirely. No messages, no calls, just silence. She's ghosted him, Mia said, shaking her head. Guess she knew when to run. But the harshest part was the isolation. Daniel's family, blindsided by the scandal and the betrayal, turned away. Tom, ever honest, filled me in with a heaviness I felt deep down. He's cut off. Nobody's answering his calls or texts. Even his parents won't take them. The man who once commanded respect now faced cold rejection and loneliness. It was a stark contrast to the life he'd built around lies and manipulation. I remembered the last time I saw him. His eyes searched mine, not for forgiveness, but for something, anything to hold on to. You think this is over, he spat bitterly. You think you've won. I met his gaze with calm, the certainty steady in my voice. It's over for me. You lost the battle the moment you betrayed everything. He said nothing more. The silence between us spoke volumes as I walked away for the last time. What lingered wasn't anger or bitterness, it was peace. The peace of reclaiming my life, my dignity. In the weeks after, I poured my energy into rebuilding. The house sold quickly, the proceeds securing my future, a new beginning. Work became my refuge, a place to channel strength and passion without looking back. Mia, Lisa, and Tom remained steadfast, their support a constant reminder I was never alone in this fight. One afternoon, I found myself in the garden, staring at the rose bush I'd planted months ago. Its delicate blooms swayed gently in the breeze, a symbol of resilience, growth after harsh winters. I thought back to the moment when everything shattered. It was a turning point, not just of pain, but of transformation. I am no longer the woman betrayed. I am the woman who took control, who fought back with intelligence and grace. And that's the story I choose to live and to tell. Months passed and life began to feel like my own again. The storm had passed, but the air was clearer now, full of possibilities I hadn't dared to imagine before. One afternoon, I received an unexpected call from a woman named Claire, a director at a nonprofit organization focused on helping women reclaim their independence after trauma. She'd heard about my story through a mutual contact and wanted to invite me to speak at their upcoming event. At first, I hesitated. Sharing my story so openly felt daunting. But then I realized how far I'd come, from the woman broken by betrayal to someone who could inspire others to fight back. When the day came, standing in front of a crowd of women, I felt a calm strength wash over me. I told them about the pain, the deception, and most importantly, the power of resilience. How we don't have to be victims. How reclaiming control starts with believing in ourselves. After the speech, a few women approached me, tears in their eyes, sharing their own stories. That moment, the connection, the shared strength, was a turning point for me. It wasn't just about my victory anymore. It was about helping others find theirs. Back home, the garden bloomed with new roses. Each petal felt like a small victory, a reminder that even after the darkest winters, life could blossom again. Lisa called one evening. "Evie, I heard the talk went amazing. People are already asking when you'll do it again." I laughed softly. "Maybe, I'm thinking of starting a small support group, something real, something close." Mia popped in the next day, bringing coffee and that familiar spark of encouragement. "You're unstoppable, you know that." I smiled, grateful for the friends who stood by me. I've learned that strength isn't about never falling, it's about rising every time. Sometimes I still think about Daniel, about what was lost and what was gained. But those thoughts no longer sting. They're reminders of how far I've come. My life isn't defined by his betrayal anymore. It's shaped by my courage, my choices, and the future I'm building. Standing in the doorway of my new office, sunlight streaming in, I feel ready for whatever comes next. Because I know this, no one gets to write my story but me. And this chapter, it's just the beginning.